quorum to do business. Mr. Snyder is out of town on work-related business, and Mr. Mason is en route. So we'll go on and get started, and we're going to rearrange the agenda a little tonight because Mr. Mason's treasurer, and we've got two specific items, the audit and the Municipal Projects Corporation that he needs to be here for. So with that, first item is consider approval of the minutes for the September 16th, 2024 special board meeting. Everybody should have that in front of them. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? If not, do we have a motion to adopt? Do we have a second? We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Minutes are adopted. Next item is item 2.1. Consider, and then what we're going to do on the minutes for anybody following along, we're going to do items 1.1, 2.1, 5.1, and let's see, 5.10 and 5.11. And then we should be able to go back to the regular agenda at that point. So with item 2.1, Mr. Denton, you want to do the financial statements for the month ending September 30th?
Absolutely. Good evening. Looking at page 23 of your board packet, you'll find the beginning of the information for our financials for the month of September 2024. The Frankfort Plant Board has a fiscal year that ends on June 30th each year, so this would be covering the third month of our 2025 fiscal year. So just briefly, looking at page 23, the statement of net position, which is essentially the same as a balance sheet. There's not a lot of change between what we presented for August to September. But looking here, we have a comparison year over year. You'll notice there on line 75, total assets as of September 30th, 2024, we're just over 241 million. You take your liabilities there on line 150 of just over 102 million. With your assets minus liabilities gives you net position on line 170 of just under 140 million, bringing total liabilities and net position to just over 241 million, which equals your assets. You'll notice here, year over year, one of the biggest changes, 63% of our total assets are in property, plant, and equipment there on line 45. So you can see we've had significant investment, minus when you take away your accumulated depreciation, over $9.5 million in increase in that property, plant, and equipment number. The other noticeable difference is a decrease in cash year over year of 2.3 million, and that is due to investing back into our fixed assets at a rate quicker than we're generating it from our operations. We're down on our assets, down on liabilities, primarily because of a decrease in our pension liability. So overall, pretty stable balance sheet for the period ending there in September. I'd like to briefly talk about our bonds and leases payable on page 25 of your board packet. In September, we did have a principal payment on our FSN third lien lease. We decreased that balance by $187,500, bringing that balance to just over $3.9 million as of September 30th. And that is the only outstanding third-party debt that we have currently.
And when does that lease pay off, David?
That is in 2029, I believe. It's December of 2029. And then lastly, let's look just for a moment at our operations, how the company's performing through the first 3 months. On page 28, statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position for the 3 months ending September 30th, 2024. You'll notice there on line 20, just under 29 million in revenue. When you look at on line 50 and line 260, your operating and general admin expenses of just under 24.8 million, other revenue of 1.3 million. You'll see an increase in net assets of just under $5.5 million. Now, when we say an increase in net assets of 5.5 million, I just previously talked about on the net position statement, we're down with 2.3 million. And the difference there is because the plant board has its books on the accrual basis of accounting. Right. So we book revenue whenever we have earned the revenue, not when we receive it in cash. And we book expenses when we incur the expense, not when we pay it in cash. Right. So there is a difference between what you see on that statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position versus what you truly have in cash. But I just think that's a valuable thing to point out. But
so what you're trying to say is you don't have $5 million in cash in your office?
We did not generate that in 3 months. No. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, but that's a quick summary of where we are through September.
Do we have any questions? Jason, Catherine, of David?
No.
Okay. Jason? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are accepted. If we move now to item 3, information, public comment. Ms. Poe?
We do not have any public comments other than the web comments that you all were aware of, and I'll have that letter to go out.
Okay.
for that section.
And from here on, we'll be sending a letter when we get specific comments, or whatever, addressed to the board. The board will be acknowledged that the board's been briefed on, as understanding the matter's been resolved.
That is correct.
Okay. Next, departmental reports. Mr. General Manager?
Yes. The first, let's say, public information.
It's right behind us here.
Yes.
Scott here.
Yes, yes, please.
We have a Cable 10 personality. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you all doing?
Okay.
So just, reporting on media services. We finished up all the Meet the Candidates interviews, so there were 17 of those. We recorded and aired all the chamber forums, the 6 forums in all. We covered the DIG mayoral forum, hosted the Next Band Lounge at where we set up at Bourbon on the Banks, and talked to customers there. We hosted Customer Appreciation Day. I think David Columbia cooked about 400 hot dogs that day, and it seemed like a pretty good turnout that day. We celebrated Public Power Week and Customer Service Week. Cable 10 covered the district soccer tournament. That was 3 nights of soccer. Got good reaction from the community on that one. Continuing to do football game of the week. We're in the middle of that season. Next week we'll do 2 nights of live volleyball coverage and follow that up with a live football game of the week at Western Hills. So very busy on the Cable 10 side. David worked with Leanne to pick and order AV equipment for the clubhouse. Those pieces are on the way, and so I think everything is on track to open there and get that stuff installed. And then we're preparing for election night coverage on the 5th of November, and then we've got candlelight on November 7th, so a lot coming up.
When I heard a lot of positive comments about covering the district soccer tournament, both boys and girls.
Yeah.
And then I know when it became the regional, that's a different arrangement with High School Athletic Association and so forth. So it's a little different arrangement. And then we were covering the city commission that night also.
That's right.
Yeah.
Limited manpower, so we got to decide where to split
Yeah.
things, and all the KHSAA fees for everything we do like that, and then they usually increase by depending on what round you're in. So got to divvy out our resources that way too.
And I think you all did the first time you all covered Western Hills football game, and then you had live updates
Yeah.
for the Franklin County game
Right,
at the
right.
same time.
The first time we were able to cover 2 games simultaneously
Yeah.
live and kind of cut between the two. Yeah, really neat stuff.
You're just right on the edge of ESPN, aren't you?
I tell you what, they're blowing my mind
That's
every day
right.
down there. Yeah.
Any questions of Scott?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is NOG, Network Operation.
Good evening. I think the NOC report's on page 337. For the month of September, we entered 1,364 trouble calls, handled 3,586 phone calls, and on the locate side of the house for September, they did 627 locates. That's a total of 1,821 for the fiscal year.
Is it starting to slow down now, the locates?
No, not really.
Really?
Well, August was 575, September was 627, so it actually went up some.
Yeah.
We'll get that fall, kind of that final rush of the year, everybody trying to complete projects.
Yeah.
So it'll get busier. We did, to fill our vacancy, we had a new locator start Monday, an internal transfer from another department. So for now, we're back up to full staffing, and we hope to keep it that way for a while. But other than that,
Any questions
that's
for
it for the
Darren?
NOC report. Anything? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the customer service.
Good evening. You can find the customer service reports on page 339 to 343. The summary is there on page 339. Customer service assisted 8,348 customers last month. 4,532 of those were on the phone, 1,351 walk-ins, and then 2,396 cashier transactions. We also saw an uptick in the kiosk transactions. Last month we had about 270. This month we had 376. So something for customers just worth noting. The kiosks are available 24/7 in the drive-through. It's well lit. There are cameras, and we do have NOC personnel here. So we are getting some transactions at night and over the weekends, but just to let customers know that that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is monitored. Last month, the board approved the referral program, so that is up and going on our website for existing NextBand customers. So if you're an existing NextBand customer and you love your NextBand service, you do have the ability to go in there and refer customers. You'll just enter there's a referral link on their portal page. You'll enter their name, their email address, and it'll send them a referral code. And if they put that referral code in either their online submission or give it to our CSRs, they'll get a discount on their bill after the customer's had it for 30 days. So get the word out, get some money off your bill, especially with the holidays coming. That might help pay some of your utility bills. And so that's definitely a great program, but we did get that up and going, and it is available for customers now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks for including that kiosk transaction data.
Yeah, I think we'll continue to see that go up. We've had customers, I noticed even this afternoon after we closed. So customers are starting to become aware of it. The one thing that I would note on the kiosks is cash. There's no charge for cash. There's a $3.50 fee because that's through our third-party vendor for card. But if you're paying with a check, we don't really recommend that you pay that through the kiosk because it is an e-check. We recommend you do that on our website. So you don't even have to come in here. You can do it on our website as an e-check, and there's no cost on the portal. So that's just one thing we've been letting customers know. We've had several that have paid with a check, but there is a fee to do that through our kiosk. So just something else for customers to be aware of. They can pay that through our portal and not necessarily the kiosk. But it's definitely a great benefit for our cash-paying customers as well as our card customers.
Any questions for April?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next is the telecommunication. Adam.
Good afternoon, good evening. The telecom report starts on page 345 of your board package. Looks like we've inched right up to 25% of people that are moved to NextBand, which is a good sign. That number seems to be growing each month. We had 7 outages for the month. 5 of those related to the storm that we had on September 27th. The other 2 were over in Indian Hills and on Silver Lake. It was a bad piece of cable and a power inserter. Trouble calls are up just a little bit, but I would say most of that is due to the storm that we had. Kind of raised the number there at the end of the month. Historically, they're still below the average, but for that month they're a little high. On the NextBand, we activated 5 more ponds. So we did an area, Pine Hill Village out 421. We activated it. Basically, we're active from Versailles Road all the way to the interstate. All that's been turned on. College Park, Douglas, Langford, that area has been turned on. And there was Terra Linda and Inverness, which is kind of part of the Versailles Road area. Those are all active. As of today, we have 189 easements signed. So staff's been doing all they can, and we just, yesterday was the easement acquisition specialist, first day. So hopefully she'll come in and hit the ground running, and we can see that number come up. So that's what I got.
And I might point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, when we had that storm, there were several days that we didn't get some people back on telecom.
Yeah, so if you
but
look
we're
at the,
waiting. Sometimes other
right,
utility, we got to wait for their repairs first.
Yeah, so if you looked at the outage map, it looked like the whole eastern side of Franklin County was out. 2 reasons for that. One, we have that outage is tied together, those 2 areas, so it kind of makes one, but it was actually 2 separate areas that were out. And basically that was a KU power outage. Mm-hmm. We did notice like the next day that we could get some of that back on, so we deployed some generators that we could run our line equipment, because we had some people in out 421 that had electric, they were plant work customers, electric customers that had electric but didn't have cable services. So we were able to run that, some of that on generators. The other stuff, we just wasn't, they didn't have power anyway. So when KU brought their power back, we did have a couple areas of the 5 outages that I talked about that basically were blown fuses. So when KU brought the power back on, it blew quite a bit of fuses in our system, or when the power went off either way. And so we had to restore those. But we watch those outage windows, and as soon as they clear, if we don't see our customers coming back, we'll get trucks running and get those fuses replaced, or at least investigate if we have a problem outside of the electric. So,
Any questions for? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Next is Electric Department, Ross and Travis.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board. I had 2 things I wanted to cover quickly with you tonight. First thing, our reliability reports that we cover monthly, but I also wanted to touch base a little bit on our mutual aid efforts in Florida. The electric department departmental reports begins on page 349 of your board package. It starts this month with our top 10 outages for the month of September, with a total number of 427 customers affected for the month. If you flip over to page 350, you can get our e-reliability numbers for the month. You can see our SAIDI numbers for the month are at 49.425. And then page 351 and 352 are a breakdown of those outages by cause, with a total number of 38 outages for the month. And I will entertain any questions about the e-reliability numbers before I move on to the mutual aid.
Any questions?
Okay. I know you guys are well aware, we provided mutual aid to the city of Mount Dora, Florida. I think we have some pictures here of some of our crews working there. The goal with the mutual aid obviously is to go down and help out, restore the power as quickly and safely as possible to the customers of Mount Dora after the hurricane. Just to kind of give you a reference, Mount Dora is about 25 miles northwest of Orlando. So it's kind of centrally located in Florida. Mount Dora is a municipal there. It's one of 33 municipals in the state of Florida. Our crews left out on October 8th at about 7:30 a.m. They returned this past Sunday, October 13th, around 11:30 p.m. Mount Dora has roughly 6,000 plus customers. I am proud to say that our crews, within the first 24 hours of being there after the storm had passed through, was able to restore around 3,000 customers within the first 24 hours. So a significant portion of their system that we were able, our crews alone were able to restore. We were the only municipal that was there to help Mount Dora until about Friday evening. They had another Florida municipal, once they got their system restored, that came up as well. But you know, truthfully, we have some of the greatest linemen in the country right here at the Frankfurt plant. We're very, very fortunate. You know, their work ethic is unmatched. They're really talented, hardworking guys, and I'm super proud of them. We got a lot of great feedback, like we normally do anytime we go to help out other utilities. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions about any of that.
Well, we had, what, 7? We had, what, 3?
Yes, we had
4
7.
trucks,
Correct.
2 buckets, and the digger and a pickup.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And I want to thank the mayor came on customer appreciation, and Hudson got to talk to him quite a while, because he was very interested in how the mutual aid worked and what we were doing. And so Scott got to brief him, and I think he really appreciated that. So.
Yeah, it's a really good thing, because unfortunately there's going to come a time when we're going to need it. So
Yes.
you know, to have a group that's already got that bond and, you know, willing to help out each other, it's really nice.
Any questions?
No.
All right, thank
And
you.
so they're back though, right?
Yes, they're back.
Good evening, everyone. This month's SEPA report begins on page
like 353 of your board package. So for the month of August, our total SEPA bill was 82,203, which is our normal bill. Our net payment for SEPA was 265,480 for a monthly profit of 183,277. And that brings us through August of 2024, the net benefit to the board of 920,374. So another good CP year. Everything seems to be tracking really closely to kind of 2023. If you look at the bar graphs on, that's page 354, you can see we're tracking, fairly close to 2023, which was a good year for SEPA. So
Is that about where you think it'll be, David?
Yes, sir. If we continue at a net benefit of $186,000 a month over 12 months, it exceeds our estimates.
Okay.
And really quickly on AMI, electric installs 20,225. That's 92% of our system. Water installs 13,980, which is 82% for them. So we're just chugging along with AMI. Everything going pretty well. Any questions?
Question?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is a safety teller.
Good afternoon. Safety report is on 357 and 358. There's not much to report on that. There was no OSHA recordables and no vehicle accidents for the month of September. Any questions?
Any question? Thank you, sir.
Next is water distribution.
Good evening, Board. I'd like to touch base on a couple things you can find in the board packet. For one, in September, we installed 10 new water services. We had 6 water main breaks that also required 6 outages. We changed out 418 water meters in September. And then the beginning of October, we went ahead and winterized all 9 water fountains. Those things are pretty delicate, and if you don't winterize them ahead of time, they will freeze and bust. So we went ahead and got that before we knew the frost was coming in and a freeze this week. We met our Wednesday night deadline last week with our Payne Street Signal Ridge job, doing the main extension down the hill, with also updating an existing water line on Payne Street. Within about a 3-week period of time, the guys installed 1,150 foot of pipe, all the valves. We built a pit. The pressure reducing valves just came in today, so those will be installed tomorrow or Thursday, depending on the schedule here. They're doing cleanup right now. They've hauled about 8 loads of chipped trees, limbs, all that stuff in the cleanup process that we had to go through and create our path for the new water line. Water's on, tests are good, and so pretty much once the valves are put in, that job will be wrapped up. And then, of course, we had to do the cutting and cap of the line to get it prepped and ready to be dismantled and taken off the bridge. So all that stuff was pretty much the Wednesday night deadline that was agreed upon.
So we're
last
clear
week.
off the bridge for,
Yeah, well, the line itself's still there,
Right.
but as far as the connection source on both sides has been disconnected,
Okay.
and it's ready for them to do their thing, schedule-wise. And then tomorrow we have interviews for entry-level positions, so we'll be doing some interviews tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's pretty much where we are right now.
I'd say this is a pretty good month, wouldn't you?
Hey, we've been pretty productive. Can't talk high enough about the guys with hard work,
Yeah.
the overtime they worked to make sure we got to the Wednesday night agreement and get everything knocked out. So the guys did fantastic. So
I know there weren't any disruptions to water service or anything when we did that.
no.
Good.
Like I say, we went in with our plan, got everything up and going, and part of the closeout of that job is there's a 2-inch water line that's old. We've had numerous leaks over the years, so running the new main up, we actually started changeovers today to take the water services from the old line. All the tests and everything, of course, come back good, so they're putting the existing water services on the new water main today for, I think there's four water services on the Payne Street side.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any questions?
No. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm stepping in for Brandon today. For the month of September, the water treatment plant treated 263,793,000 gallons of water for an average daily production of 8.79 million gallons per day. Lot 4 averaged 1,363 cubic feet per second for an average of 880 million gallons per day, and there was 5.1 inches of rainfall recorded for the month.
No chemicals this month, right?
Not this month. Nope.
No.
All right.
Any questions?
No. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that wrap it up, Gary?
Yes, I think that's it.
Okay. Going back to the action items, item 5.1, consider approval of RFP number 2024-4 for janitorial services for the administration building to Integrated Service Solutions LLC, ISS, in the amount of $64,974. Ms. Phillips.
Good evening. Support Services has 4 authorized positions for the janitorial crew. 2 of the positions are currently vacant due to 1 employee retiring and 1 resigning. So this provided an opportunity to look into other options such as contracting part of our cleaning of the buildings. Staff anticipates that contracting the janitorial services at the administration building would reduce the authorized positions to 2 employees who would clean the remaining FPB facilities, which are the service center, water plant, telecom building, head end, clubhouse, and the NOC building. And the full-time employees would also be available to work overtime for the clubhouse rental schedule. Staff prepared an RFP for janitorial services at the admin building only. The RFP was sent to 15 cleaning contractors with 7 proposals received. Dirty Deeds Cleaning Company submitted the lowest response but is not able to honor their proposal and has requested to increase their price. So staff recommends awarding the contract to ISS in the amount of $64,974, and this is for a 1-year contract. Staff estimates a savings of $45,044 per year by utilizing a contractor. This is compared to the salary and benefits of 2 janitors.
And no employee was laid off. This was
No.
as a result of retirements that we
Yes.
went in this direction. Any questions for Leanne?
Well, when the lowest bidder, Dirty Deeds, asked to increase, was it too late? to
Yes, we had
consider-
already opened all the responses.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jason, you have any questions? No other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to 5.10. And we're gonna do 5.10 and 5.11. Mr., as I understand it, you're, Mr. Couch tonight?
Yes, sir. We're hearing for Harvey tonight. We can combine 5.10 and 5.11. Both are renewals for existing programming for a 3-year term. All the rates are below what's been budgeted. There's no new launch, no new penetration requirements. You don't have to shift them around in the lineup for anything. Major League Baseball, of course, is obviously baseball. Got the World Series coming up here in a week or so. I think it's Cleveland and New York tonight, maybe, and then the Next Level Sports is they have high school football, lacrosse, various live sporting programs. So I ask for a motion to approve the renewals for Next Level Sports and MLB Network, please. Thank
And I
you.
know both these agreements have been reviewed by you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And Harvey, of course.
Yes. Any questions for Hans? If not, do we have a motion for on 5.10 and 5.11?
So moved.
Jason, okay. We have a
I'll
motion, do
second.
we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Thank you.
opposed? Contract's approved. We can go back to, let's see. Go back to 5.4. Consider award of bid invitation number 1811, metal poles to Brownstone Electric Supply in the amount of $75,075. Jennifer Heller.
Good evening. This was a bid for 45-foot and 50-foot metal poles. These are just normal inventory items that we replenish as needed. We sent the bid to 12 vendors, 3 responses were received. The low bidder had also the lower lead time, and Brownstown is a normal vendor we use daily.
Any questions of Jennifer?
Questions?
No.
Jason? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's awarded. Thank you. Let's do 5.3, consider approval of vendor award for second REAP grant application. Travis?
Good evening again, everyone. So as Mr. Cuban stated, this is related to a second REAP grant application. Just for clarification's sake, the Plant Board has sought USDA funding for 2 solar facilities. What we're calling REAP 1 would be kind of at the front end of the Plant Board's property here on Flint Avenue. The second REAP grant would be, it's basically an identical proposal, essentially doubling the size of that facility. So 2 different applications. The item on the agenda tonight is related to the vendor award for the second REAP grant. So staff issued an RFP for ground-mounted solar array. We publicly advertised it. We received 1 response from Solar Energy Solutions. If we move forward with the project, this would be for a 1.17 megawatt array with the total cost of $2 million. And again, just like the previous REAP grant, half of that would be paid for by the USDA, so it's $1 million in funding. And then on top of that, you get the ITC credit, which we think, 30% off is pretty well in hand. It's never a guarantee when you're dealing with, the Treasury and the IRS, but, 30% or more from the ITC would be on top of that $1 million from the USDA. Again, so the grant application was due September 30th. Again, really tight time frame we were trying to operate under, so we went ahead, tentatively selected that vendor for award and used their submittal as the basis for the grant application. So when you apply for the grant, you have to have a proposal to include in the grant, so the USDA has something to review. So we use their proposal for the grant application. Again, so this is more or less ratifying that decision. I should clarify.
At a previous board meeting, we gave Gary and staff approval, and Jason worked with you all.
Correct.
Because the time frame was very tight.
Yes.
To basically execute the necessary agreements so we could meet the USDA deadline, correct?
Right. If we did vendor award tonight like we normally would for normal operations, we would have missed the deadline for sure. So we acting fast. And again, I should clarify, we don't know for sure if we're going to get the funding. And assuming that is the case, we'll have to finalize a formal contract with the vendor, so the board will get to see this again before doing anything absolutely final. It's not the last, not the last go at it. But just again, ratifying the vendor award. Again, they were our only submittal. Solar Energy Solutions did the array out here. We've got a great relationship with them, absolutely confident in their ability to deliver. So, confident moving forward with them.
Any questions of Travis about this? Catherine, Jason? Jason, you want to make any comments, or? I know you put in a ton of time working extra on this also.
Yeah, mostly I just wanted to thank the staff. It was it was an extremely tight turnaround. I mean, we were having to hit our marks within we only had a few hours of wiggle room on about 6 different marks. We had to jump through a lot of hurdles between the environmental, the application, bringing Andy on, engineer interview. Travis was really the maestro at the center of it. So I really appreciate all his extra work and going above and beyond on this. We'll just have to see. I mean, we did get into the first cycle of the new fiscal year, and if we don't get awarded that cycle, we'll just keep rolling through the year. So we'll just see how the money plays out. But I really do appreciate staff and everybody being willing to take another bite at this apple. It would be amazing if we could somehow get this phase 2 expansion as well, and just help us continue to serve the community with renewable energy options and potentially diversified pricing options as well.
So, do we have any further discussions? If not, do we have a motion on item 5.3, approval of the vendor award for the second REAP grant?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts awarded. Travis, while you're up there, you want to do 5.12?
Sure, yeah, so this is, again,
These are all the individual.
right, this is the USDA side of the application process. Again, tight deadline, we had to act by September 30th to get in before that deadline. So similar to the last item, we're just, once again, asking the board to ratify the signing of the documents that were required to submit for another REAP grant for another $1 million from the USDA. And those documents begin on, it looks like page 503 of your board package. Again, carbon copy of the process we just went through a few months ago, so I think everything is in order there. It's, documents we're familiar with.
And these were basically the same vendor agreements that we used for the first USDA grant, correct?
Correct, yes. It will look very similar to the last grant. Yep, same.
And when this is all done, we'll have, assuming if we possibly got this next one, then we'd actually would have three. We would have the original one, and we'd have the first USDA and the second USDA,
Correct.
all back here on the site, correct?
Correct, yes. So the first one, the first is out here, built now. The second one, which is the first REAP grant, would be, again, it's same property, but you go down Flynn, and it's kind of up front on the other side of the KU transmission line. That will take up about half of the parcel there we have between us and the Humane Society. Second REAP grant application, again, take that same size array, double it, and that will take us about to the end of the property. If you go to the very end of our property here, that's where the cliff starts down to Trumbo Bottom. So we'll pretty much
And in
use
all
up
this,
that
we
space.
used all of our property.
Correct.
We didn't have to purchase any property, and then when this is all done, we actually would have this power, and this actually, power would be cheaper that we can provide for our customers, cheaper than our current wholesale, correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. So we had a lot of discussion on the first facility here. How are we going to price it? We're going to be able to sell it all. With all the funding available through the USDA and the ITC, it's really, the project is kind of a no-brainer, even if we just use the energy internally as an offset for wholesale. It's still a good deal. So yeah, we're thinking, depending on how the tax credits play out, we're going to be kind of in the 3-4 cent power range, which is as good or better than I think we can certainly expect over the next 20 years, given the way the power markets are going. So yep.
So do we have a motion to ratify the documents submitted for the second REAP grant application, and the 4 documents are listed under there?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Documents are approved.
Okay.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all your hard work, too.
Yep, absolutely appreciate it.
What are you going to do next month?
Well, we've got a couple more items on the agenda.
Next, let's go to item 5.5. Consider adding an additional lead water distribution operator position and change the water plant senior operator title. Ms. Brown.
Good evening, Board Chair and members of the board. About 5 years ago, the Water Distribution Department established a meter area to enhance meter reader related functions. Since then, the department has significantly expanded its responsibilities, especially with the implementation of the AMI systems and taking over daily meter reading tasks due to phasing out of the external meter reading department. Currently, the meter department consists of 5 internal employees as listed. Unlike the other departments that have a lead water distribution operator to assist with task management and supervision, the meter department doesn't have this role. Staff requests the board consider hiring a water distribution lead operator. This position would help to oversee daily tasks, manage AMI implementation, and monitor meter reading. The financial impact for this addition is minimal, estimated at around $4,000 for the remaining of the fiscal year. In addition, staff also requests a title change for the water plant senior operator to water plant lead operator. Staff feels the change to lead instead of senior would be consistent with the water distribution titles. The detailed information and a letter supporting from the Director of Water is listed in the detail pages. Any questions?
Any questions for Nichelle or Sharmista or Catherine?
So it's estimated at 4,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year, but what would it be for an entire fiscal year?
Extrapolate the math, it's 4,000. I think I had it, maybe started in November, December, so over the next, what, six to
About
7
8,000?
months. Yeah, so I guess total for the year,
8,000 for the year?
roughly.
Estimate, yes.
Okay.
Jason, do you have any questions? Catherine, do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Position's approved. Well, Nichelle, while you're up there,
Okay.
you ready?
I'm ready.
Just, let's go. 5.6.
Okay. So 5.6 is staff asking the board to consider approval of the gag clause as attestation requirements for self-funded health plans. So a federal law enacted in 2021 mandates that all group health plans sponsors submit an attestation through a federal web portal. Currently, MedBen has done this for us in the past years. The attestation needs to be submitted annually. So the board, MedBen completed the attestation for Frankfurt Plant Board last year. The staff requests that the board authorize MedBen to file another attestation via the federal portals by December 31st of 2024 for the health plan year of 2025. Does the board have any questions?
And exactly what does this, exactly what does this do in terms of?
So it's asking our third-party administrator to attest that our health plan hasn't entered into any prior agreement with providers that restricts access to specific claim or health care provider data. So on our behalf, MedBen is saying to the federal government that our plan hasn't entered into
So the bottom line
prior
is,
agreement.
we haven't told any of our providers or anybody, we haven't tried to silence them or tell them to cover up anything or whatever.
Correct, yes.
That's just kind of my interpretation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So just to ensure transparency.
That's probably not the legal definition, is it?
That was a good explanation.
Jason, do you have any questions? Catherine?
No.
Okay, do we have a motion on 5.6?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Next is item 5.7, which is consider approving Kentucky Health Plan mandates and recommendations. Nichelle?
So staff, along with Cheryl Morgan, our health plan consultant, recommends approval of several Kentucky Health Plan mandates changes effective January 1st of 2025. So for our 2025 health plan year. Listed below are the mandates. If you have any questions, just let me know.
You want to just maybe just very quickly just go through what those are, the law changes? And these
Yes.
were by the Kentucky General Assembly.
Okay. So the first one is pharmacy. This mandate wants to ensure that the plan can no longer exclude any pharmacy that is in our network, the PBM network. So this would apply to groups that currently exclude Walgreens. So currently, right now, we have a limitation for our pharmacy for Walgreens and Rite Aids. We state that it's only a one fill max, and so the law is stating that we can no longer do that because they feel like it's unfair to those providers. Next, for stuttering, if a plan covers rehabilitative care, coverage is required for rehabilitative speech therapy for stuttering. So that's what that mandate is for.
Do we cover?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Next, if there is treatment performed for cancer for I can't say, I'm sorry, testicular cancer, the plan must cover all stages of the surgical reconstruction for that. Next, deals with infidelity. Coverage will be provided for the preservation of medical treatment necessary for infidelity and preserving sperm for like infertility. And the last one for cancer screening. Cancer screening tests or procedures is consistent. Any cancer screening or procedures consistent with the guidelines. Coverage shall not be subject to utilization management requirements, including authorization or cost sharing. So any screenings for cancer that is approved by the American Cancer Society, our plan cannot require a pre-authorization or any cost sharing of the member.
Do any of these changes, are any of these major changes in our plan coverage, or are we pretty much, we're already doing all these things?
No, like I said, with the pharmacy, we
Right, we at
yeah.
Walgreens, we have to bring them, and it has certain impact, what, on mail order and a few other things?
Yeah, so again, we can't incentivize for mail order. Currently, right now, mail order is, if you do a 90-day supply through mail order, there's only a charge for a 2-month supply, and that is looked as if to incentivize people to use mail order, but we honestly don't have a lot of people that use mail order, but we do still have to make those changes.
Okay.
So yes, so there will be some changes to our plans.
Any, Catherine, Jason, do y'all have any questions, or, I know, Nichelle had sent this information out to everybody last week, so everybody could look at it in advance, and, any questions, Catherine or Jason?
No.
With that, do we have a motion to accept the health plan mandates required by state law under 5.7?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Those are adopted. Nichelle, you want to do item 5.8, consider stop-loss coverage and plan changes for 2025 employee health insurance plan.
So staff also recommends that the board consider approving the renewal of stop-loss coverage with Pan American for the 2025 plan year. That's who we currently have as our stop-loss carrier. Sherrill Morgan explored competitive pricing and received proposals from 8 stop-loss carriers. That information in the carrier rating portfolio starts on page 431 in the detail pages. Pan American provided the most favorable overall option for stop-loss coverage. More details are also located with the renewal comparison is on page 4, starts on page 431 as well.
And Cheryl Moore, they bid this out, right, and got us multiple bids?
Yes. From 8 other carriers responded, and Pan American was favorable.
And just for the board's knowledge, I signed the, I guess, binder to hold the rate till tonight's meeting, so that this rate would stay in effect. They required that if we wanted to lock that rate, we had to lock it with the understanding that it was contingent only till tonight. And if we ratify it tonight, then it goes on. If not, if we don't ratify it, then the binder expires tonight anyway, so.
Again, this year, our claims were good. It's similar to last year. So something different that I'm very proud of is that we were able to get the rates back so we can present it in the October meeting versus trying to present it in the November meeting. So we did have a good plan year.
Yeah, I mean, our claims are actually down, aren't they, David?
Yes, we've had a good plan. Yeah, from budget last year, we were below 400,000. We had budgeted 3 million, it was 2.6, and we're on track to have another good year. So.
Yeah.
There's a little difference in the specific premium, just 56,000, but that's still down. The administrative fees from MedBen did go up, but it's normal for them to go up 2% per year. So there was an overall increase. The estimated increase was 108,000. It's a projected increase of the overall cost for the health plan.
Any questions, Jason, Catherine, about the plan?
No.
So do we have a motion on item 5.8, stop-loss coverage and plan changes?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Approved. Next is
The 401A revised plan document.
Yes.
Okay. So I provided the board with the revised document, the adoption agreement. Do you have any questions concerning that?
This was the discussion we had regarding the supplemental retirement plan that we've discussed and approved, and then
For tier 3 employees,
Right.
yes, for the additional matching and percentages for them.
any questions on this?
No.
If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you.
Okay.
Last is, I wanted to go back just 1 second to the previous item.
Okay.
Just to make sure everybody in the health plan changes. You all probably saw that Cheryl Morgan them gave us 7 items that we could consider. There's a plan rewrite, which is gonna cost about $700. And that was, our plan currently has 15 amendments, and this would be to consolidate it all into one plan as opposed to separate amendments. There was a recommendation that we consider reference-based pricing, which changes how we pay for claims. We've asked them for additional information on how that would work, and some employers that are using that. And sometime after the first year, if the board agrees, probably ask maybe 2 board members to work with Nichelle. I mean, they're claiming there's significant savings. They're claiming we could save over $300,000 a year, but I think there's a lot of questions how this would work with employees, with providers.
Right.
And we really need to take a look and understand that better, and probably needs some board members to work with Nichelle and take a look at that. They made a recommendation that we eliminate one of our plans, but almost half our employees use that plan. And the savings was only $20,000 a year. And it would require half our employees to change plans. They had an emergency room copay they wanted to talk about in addition to the deductible, but our emergency room claims are down. So in fact, our emergency room use is not only not a problem, it's actually decreasing. We talked about the mandates, which we adopted. They also had some recommendations on a different copay for brand name drugs as opposed to a flat copay. But again, the savings were almost minimal. Same way for out-of-pocket maximums, and the savings was what, about $9,200 a year?
Well, with the out-of-pocket, that was mainly partnered with the, if we were to implement the 25 copay for
Right.
branded drugs. And so what that does is just allows, when they're paying more out-of-pocket, to kind of cut their loss,
Right.
so.
So basically, the plan, in essence, other than what the changes on the pharmacies and the state mandates, basically the plan for the employees for this coming plan year remains unchanged. So I just want to make sure, because everybody's had that, but make sure that for our staff and everybody that there's really no changes that should impact them negatively at all.
Right, the employee's contribution also will remain the same
Right.
as well, yeah.
So just wanted to point that out in case. So with that, your timing, Mr. Mason, is impeccable, sir. So if we could go back to the first page, item 2.2, consider accepting clean, unmodified audit report prepared by Blue and Company for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024, as required by KRS 96.185. Mr. Denton.
Yes, the Frankfurt Plant Board of Directors approved an engagement with Blue and Company to perform our annual audit for the year ending June 30th, 2024. This is the 4th year Blue and Company has performed the audit, and we have a draft for you tonight that we're going to asking you to approve so they can move forward with finalizing it and getting the final report. I believe, David, do we have Mr. Norvell with us remotely?
Now, is this the last year for Blue and Company, or they have one more year?
We have another year.
We have another year?
If the board chooses, that was going to be a discussion we were going to have with you next month.
Right.
On what you'd like to do, so we could move forward or
Right,
do
but
something
they are,
different.
based on our policy of rotating auditors, they're eligible to do the audit for one more year?
Yes, we had 3
Okay.
years plus 2-year option, which we're in option year 1 of that. So, Mr. Norvell's here with us to present the audit for you that you can, that you all, I think, receive a copy prior to this. So, Mr. Norvell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. So good evening, everyone. I want to start off first by just thanking the board for giving us the opportunity to serve again as the auditors for 2024. We do appreciate that opportunity, and I want to thank David, Katrina, and the staff as well, while I have a chance, for all their assistance throughout the audit to assist us wrapping this up. And as David mentioned already, it's the fiscal year end is as of June 30. So that is the the end of the audit period. And he's mentioned already that it is a draft still at this point, but our work is complete with this. So David, is it possible that I could share my screen or just talk through it?
We can enable that for you, Alan. So you can go ahead and share it anytime.
Okay, let me get that. So I just had a few things highlighted. I thought that might be better if that works. Let's see. And I can increase the size if I need to, but is that appearing on your end?
Not yet.
There we go. Okay, we see it
Come
now.
through? Okay, very good. So the first page I'm on, and if you have a copy of that in front of you, is page 1 is the audit opinion. And what you're looking for there is that second paragraph that I have highlighted in green on the screen, where it reads, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position, changes in financial position, and cash flows for the board. That's what you're looking for. That's an unmodified opinion. That is a clean opinion. And then I want to go over a couple of pages in that part of the document and just touch upon two sections on page 3 of our opinion. The first section I have highlighted in green on your screen. This is required supplementary information. It includes the management's discussion and analysis, some supplemental pension schedules, and supplemental OPEB schedules. The key takeaway here is this section here where it says we have applied certain limited procedures. That's what's required under the audit standards on that particular information. And because those procedures are limited in nature, we don't express an opinion on those schedules. And I'll point those out when we get to them. And then just the yellow section refers to additional supplementary information. And the key takeaway there, and it's mostly some combining statements and budgetary comparison schedules, that information is required to be audited. So that's just why I point this out. Certain supplemental information is not, some of it is. For that is audited, which is covered by the yellow paragraph, the key takeaway there is the very bottom where it says it's fairly stated in all material respects in relation to the financial statements as a whole. And so I'll pick up the pace here a bit. The first section right after the opinion is management's discussion and analysis. Again, this is one of the unaudited sections. This is the section where management has the opportunity to go beyond the historical financial statements and provide additional context in terms of any changes in operations or financial position that occurred during the year. So this is management's opportunity to provide some additional explanation and context around that, a little less structured in its requirements, but still has requirements that they have to comply with. And that's one of our limited procedures, is to be sure that they have followed those requirements and that this information is consistent with what has been audited. So there's the key section here is financial analysis. It starts with the statement of net position, some additional context around statement of revenues and expenses. Also, some discussion around capital assets, long-term debt, which are two of the major areas of your financial statements, as you're well aware. So that covers MD&A. Then we get to the beginning of the audited information. This is on page 12. And I do have a couple of things highlighted here. I won't have this much on every page. The pace will pick up. But just this is, again, as of June 30th, and I'll increase the size a bit so you can see. I'm sure you're well aware with all the capital activity you had going on, projects during the year, that there was a $15 million increase for external financial reporting purposes in capital assets during the year from 115 to 130. There was this is a new line item this year. It's related to the health care benefit that's part of CERS. And I will talk more about this a bit later in this report and presentation, but that is normally a liability, historically has been a liability, but due to changes adopted by CERS and by various assumptions and changes to some benefits as well, that went from a liability to an asset this year. So I'll move on down. You can see what the liability was in 23 was approximately 11 million. So that was a almost $12 million swing there from a liability to an asset. And that in many ways drove, along with the capital assets, drove the increase in total assets for the year from 199 to 206 billion. And then when it comes to total liabilities, that was a decrease in the year from 77 billion in total down to approximately 72 million. And the net effect of all of that was an increase in your net position of about 11.7 million from 122 to 133. And then moving on over to the statement of revenues and expenses, you can see the detail of that change in net assets. Operating revenues showing an increase of about 2.6 million, and a $500,000 decrease in operating expenses. So as a result, your income from operations was up a healthy $3.2 million in 24. Also a $500,000 increase in non-operating revenues, primarily driven by interest revenue, as to be expected there with the rates improving during the course of the year. And also with all those, the capital grant activity you had going on, about a $1.5 million increase in that year over year. So again, here is the $11.6 million increase for this year compared to 6.4 for 1 year earlier in 2023. Moving on to the statement of cash flows, just always touch upon what I think are the key takeaways here. Net cash provided by operating activities, about 12.9 million. That was down a bit from 16 million in 2023, but some of that then was offset by a small reduction in net cash used by capital and financing activities from 19 million down to 16.5 million. A significant improvement under net cash used by or provided by investment activities there. You can see primarily driven by proceeds from sale of investments. So a $1.2 million source of cash there. All of that nets to a change in cash year over year of a decrease of $2 million. And with that, we'll pick up the pace here, and there we go. I'll move on over to the next thing I had highlighted for you was on page 19. And this right of use asset was new this year, was about $200,000, if you remember back on the statement of net position. But that was a new lease this year that resulted in that recognition. The rule, the accounting standard that requires this is relatively new itself. It's only a couple of years old. So, but this, you didn't have one of those last year, but did this year. So the accounting policy was required to be added. And then moving on down just to page 22, note 4, just to the nature of your operations with the significant investment in capital assets. There's a lot of detail provided in note 4 related to that. Just one of the things that captures my eye is that auditors were working on this. You had $40 million in investment, new investment in capital assets during FY24. On top of page 23 is several of the projects that were ongoing at that time, making up the 17 plus million that you had in construction in progress at year end. Under liabilities, down to the full service network note financing obligation that has about $4 million left on it at the end of 24. And there's detail on the maturities of that over the next 5 years. Risk management on note 6, page 25, that's your self-insured health plan, those tables there, the activity during the year and both years actually, also with 23 there for comparative purposes. Then we get to the pension and OPEB information, and this goes on for several pages. The key takeaway here is I always just remind boards in these presentations is that really management doesn't have, nor the board has a lot of impact or input into this. Benefits are set by statute in many cases. All of the assumptions that drive this are by the Board of Trustees at the CERS in terms of assumptions around the actuarial assumptions to calculate the liabilities, as well as the investment target allocations and target returns, rate of returns, all of that set and established by the outside of the plant board's control, but you're still obligated to disclose all this information. So it carries on for several pages, starting on page 25. There's the benefits as defined on page 26 for the retirement. That carries on over. Then we get to the actuarial assumptions on page 29. Again, all of this is adopted by CERS that drives the liability. Here's the investment objectives, their target allocations, their expected rate of return, all of that information. Then we get to page 33, and then this is the beginning of the OPEB information, which is the healthcare piece of the retirement. And all the same information has to be disclosed again, so several pages there between actuarial assumptions, investment allocations, and objectives. That carries on for another 5 pages. So there's a lot of information there. Most of it's beyond and outside of your control, but still your obligation to report the impact that it has on the plant board. Note 9 is that new lease obligation that I mentioned earlier back on the statement of financial position also requires disclosure related to it. You can see you began the year with 0, and then the activity in the current year to arrive at the ending balances. Subscription-based information technology arrangements was a new standard in 23, a new accounting standard. That was the first time it appeared in your financial statements. So for 24, it's an update of the current year activity, and that's in note 10. And that has to do with just the software services that the plant board subscribes to manage its operations. Moving on over, then the last note that I have highlighted is note 11. This is one thing that would be filled in if the financing obligation gets approved, and maybe that happened before I logged into the meeting, but that's one of the things that we'll wrap up with David after this meeting, and we will fill in the rest of this table if that has in fact been approved before we issue finals. So that's the one piece that's left to be completed, but we wanted to go ahead and show this note for you. If for some reason that's not approved, it would be taken out or at least revised to reflect where it stands. It wouldn't hold up issuance. So moving on through the report, we're about to the end. Here's this unaudited information that I mentioned earlier on pension and OPEB, some supplemental historical information, some liability history on page 39, contribution history on page 40, the assumptions in pages 41 and 42, and then the same information for OPEB. Here's the liability, and you can see here it's even easier to see you went from an $11 million liability to a $750,000 asset just in that 1 year. And then as far as some context onto why that was such a significant change in the current year, it starts on the next page, the changes in assumptions and benefit terms that were adopted in 2023. Again, this is outside the plant board, but there was demographic assumptions that were altered, economic assumptions that were altered, and benefit term changes that all drove that. And you can see there's quite a bit that happened for the 23 year that then started impacting going forward. For 2022, there were no material changes. So that was one reason with all of these changes that it had such a significant impact this year. And then the supplemental information, this is again audited, back to some audited information on the combining statement of net position, breaking out telecom, and I'll just expand that from electric and water. This total column agrees back to the basic statement of net position that we looked at earlier. And then a budget to actual schedule on the revenues and expenses, followed by a combining schedule of statement revenues and expenses that, in this case, breaks out electric, water, and telecom and all, and each in its own separate column. Again, the total agrees back to the basic statement of revenues and expenses that we talked about earlier. And then a budget to actual that shows detail for the divisions, electric, water, telecommunications, more detail than on the previous budget to actual schedule. And then finally, because this is audit is required to be performed under government auditing standards, there's a report that we're required to issue at the end on first, internal control over financial reporting, which is the document that we just reviewed, the financial statements. So the key takeaway here is highlighted in green, and I'll blow this up a bit so you can see it a little easier. The key takeaway there, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. That's what you're looking for there. So that's on internal control. The next page of this letter is on compliance with contracts, grants, regulations. So there, with the key takeaway, the results of our test disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. That's what you're looking for there, and that's the last page of our report. So that's all I had highlighted to go over with you, but if there are some questions, I'll do my best to try to answer those.
David?
I'll stop sharing as well, so.
No, we just ask the board to approve this draft. Depending on how this other item with the board resolution on financing goes, we would add that note and then issue the final. We would put the final date on the audit report, and it'd be ready for another year of activity.
Jason, do you have any questions? Catherine?
Just a general one. Is there anything that we can do that would benefit you in your audit? Anything different?
David, Katrina, and the rest of the staff we work with are, they're outstanding. They're prepared. When the audit starts, they have everything ready. When they say they'll have it ready, they're great to work with. So I wish everybody was as well prepared at the start of the audit as their team is. But no, if there were any kind of weaknesses, we would have had to have reported them in that very last letter that I just touched upon under that section where we talked about internal control over financial reporting. So if there was anything that rose to a level of a deficiency or weakness that needed to be reported to you and addressed going forward, that's where it would be required to be documented. So yeah, there's nothing there for this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
I'll commend David and Katrina because they, since I've been here, had never been anything that looked out of place.
No, and that's major. I mean, congratulations, David, you and your team.
I appreciate it. Katrina leads this interaction back and forth with Blue, so I appreciate her leadership there. And then all the management and staff that have anything to do with touching any part of the procurement process, doing it every day is what it takes to get here. So I appreciate everybody.
Because this agency, I mean, we move a lot, we handle a lot of money, we do a lot of documents, a lot of procurement, a lot of personnel, and I mean, having spent a number of years in the state auditor's office, this is a major accomplishment, so. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Audit's accepted. Next one is item 2.3, consider approval of board resolution to authorize financing cost of next band fiber expansion by means of lease agreement up to $18.5 million. David and bond counsel, and I think Mark's here, isn't he?
Yeah, Mark, if you want to, you can come up. Some of these terms, I get a little crisscross between the plant board and the municipal projects corp. But as we laid out in our budget and our
we got to recess to get
with the first one here.
Do we
is
recess?
The
we
first
recess
one
on
here
the next one, don't we?
Is the plan.
Which one are you trying? Are you trying?
I'm doing 2.3.
2.3. Okay.
And then we recess for 2.4, right?
Okay, I thought that. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Is that?
You're right.
I mean, is it correct?
Well, it says recess under 2.3.
Yeah.
After it's over.
Yeah, We're supposed
It's-
to do 2.3 first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So during our budget process, we talked about one of the larger projects, capital projects, infrastructure investment projects we have at the plant board is the next band fiber expansion. So that is redoing, should say expanding fiber to every business, every home, every premise in our current service territory. Plus, the board has been awarded a grant, accepted a grant to go into parts of Franklin County and expand to approximately 900 more homes. The plant board has been able to internally finance about half the project. We're at the point where we need to go out for additional funding to complete the project. We have another 4 or 5 years to go, and this additional funding will allow us to get to the finish line. So what we're asking you to approve tonight is this resolution that would allow us to have a lease agreement of additional $18.5 million to complete that project. And we've got Mr. Mark Franklin with Dinsmore here to go into any details of these agreements.
So does Mark, do you want to make any comments or just open it up for questions, or how do y'all want to do it?
I can just do general comments, but
Okay.
you know, we solicited a number of banks and a few responded. West Banco was provided the best rate. It's, we'd use a lease structure due to the particularities of Kentucky law. Rather than do a loan, it's a setup where the improvements are actually owned by the finance corporation, while the other agenda item is on the agenda. They're leased to the plant board, and then the lease payments the plant board would make to the finance corporation are assigned to the bank. So it's a bit of a fancy way to get the money to the bank, but it works. And that's the way we've financed these network improvements for the plant board over the years. So it's a structure that's worked, and we used it this time as well.
As the board remembers, 2 months ago, we talked about this, and then last month, we would have had it on the agenda, but there were some final documents that need to be executed and so forth, so we're bringing it now. So this is the agreement we've previously talked about, terms and conditions. The line, it's basically a line of credit. It's set up. We don't think we'll have to draw anything on it for some time. Once we start drawing, interest starts accruing, but at this point, there's no interest accruing. And this particular loan agreement has the provision that we can ask for a rate reset at some point, and we were anticipating, and we knew that when we went down this path, is that the Fed was going to reduce rates maybe once, twice this year, maybe a couple times next year. So we'll have the advantage of knowing what the current market rate is when it comes time that we need to draw these funds and make a determination if we want to ask for a rate reset at that point. And I think, Mark, you said, I guess it's not confidential. You all currently are doing the work for state government?
Yes, that's right.
And they went to market recently also, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They did, yep. So rates have dipped a little bit in the past week. But, you know, we handled deals all that. We had a public bond sale last week. 2 weeks ago, we had 12 bidders. Last week, we had 5. This week, we had a deal today that sold with 2 bidders. So the market's all over the place right now. There's a lot of supply because everybody's trying to get their stuff financed before the election. So the public markets are kind of all over the place right now. It's a wild time, say the
So, and I
least.
think you're all credit, you all help handle the transaction for state government, right?
We do, yes.
Yeah.
We're underwriters counsel for state government
Right.
on state properties and buildings corp,
Right.
but we're bond counsel for asset and liability commission.
Right. So any question for Mark or for David?
I will say there's initial draw by technically IRS standards to have this tax exempt. There's an initial draw that we have to do, and we're
Right.
going to use that to pay bond counsel fees
Right.
initially. But then after that, it's as needed.
Right. So any other questions? If not, do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approval of the resolution. Mark, thank you and your team for all your work.
No, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure.
Okay. Next, I need a motion to recess the Frankfurt Plant Board Meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of recess say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ms. Mitchell?
On behalf of John Snyder, who's president of the Municipal Projects Corporation, in his absence, I am going to convene a special meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board Municipal Projects Corporation to consider approval of board resolution to authorize financing next band fiber expansion by means of lease agreement up to $18,500,000, which we just heard about. But I'll ask Kathy to take roll.
Member Denton Mitchell,
Here.
Member Huon,
Here?
Member Mason,
Here.
Member Snyder, Member DeLon.
Here.
And the resolution itself is on page 223 of the board packet. And of course, we just heard from our bond counsel, and we have that opinion letter. So does anybody have any questions concerning this resolution? No. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the resolution.
A second?
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries and the resolution has been adopted. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the MPC has been adjourned.
I need a motion to reconvene the Frankfurt Plant Board meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We've reconvened. I think, unless I've missed something, Ms. Poe, I assume you've been keeping track. Or down to number 6? Okay.
I thought I walked in, we were at the end.
We were waiting for you.
I thought our timing was
We
perfect.
might have missed 5.4, is that right, John?
Did we do number? Did we miss one?
Did we 5.4?
We did 5.4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the metal poles, yeah. Okay, Mr. General Manager.
I don't have
Any.
Okay. Okay, item 7, old and new business. The first item is item 7.1. This would be for the 2025 Kentucky General Assembly, basically retaining the same firm that we had. Was it their firm name? Hans is it Commonwealth Advocates? It's Stephanie Stumbo and Ellen Williams.
Yes, sir.
And their proposal was to begin 11/1, which the session obviously starts in January, and it's a short session, so it adjourns on at the end of March. But basically, to retain the two of them for a total of $7,500 a month for the period 11/1/24 through 3/30/25. And this would be for them to represent the plant board during the 2025 session. Monitor legislation, represent us in terms of any activity that comes up. And if you authorize this, then Hans would basically be authorized to execute the agreement with them and get that in place. So, any questions, or do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hans, you'll execute the agreement. Next is, Travis, can you come up? We got item, and I had a very brief discussion with the mayor on it. We've got 2 charging stations in play here. We've got the one that's at the farmer's market, which is our understanding, the farmer's market will be relocated next year. And the second one is, we have a brand-new charging station, level 3, that's never been installed, that's, almost 2 years old, Travis?
Yeah, that sounds right, yep.
And as you know, it originally was gonna go downtown, and I don't know, for lack of a better term, we've not been able to reach any agreement with the property owner, where the city originally indicated they wanted to go with it. So-
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So our options are obviously to relocate it somewhere else, or as you know, in the budget, we were gonna do some work on our Myrtle facility And as we expand the number of electric vehicles we have, we could use it internally. What this would basically do is to authorize Gary to send a letter to the mayor and say and he's aware of this, I mean, he and I talked very briefly, say that we've not been able to locate a location for the new charge level 3.
Site.
The site, yeah. Does he have any alternative that the city commission is interested in? And if not, do we want to use it ourselves? And then 2, does he want the one at the farmer's market? And we've got both a charging station and a water fountain there, right?
We do, yep. Right.
And do we need to move those out of there and move them down on Home Street where the new farmer's market will be located? And I don't think we know yet, are they going to move that roofing and everything, or do we know what the plan is?
No, to be honest, I'm not sure. Yeah, I've not heard from them.
Yeah, this would not be decided, but basically to formally ask the city, I think we generally know the plan on the farmer's market, but this would be to kind of confirm that we understand it's your intent to move it. Do you want these facilities or these things moved? And then if they don't have a site for the level 3, then use that ourselves. But the board would have to decide that later. But at this point, asking him, does he have an alternative? And I think, does the new transit center have charging stations in it?
I know they intended to at one point. I think they were sizing it to include those. I don't know if they put them in right at the start. There was a site in Frankfurt that was selected for some federal funding, so we think that's coming here soon on the west side of town.
And that's for the Charge America type. And I'm not saying it's Charge America, but for that federal grants to locate them along the interstate, right?
Right, exactly. So Frankfurt was selected for one of those sites. We think on the west side, they'll have a fast charging site. And then, like you said, the transit center, I don't know if they put them in right up front, but I know they had talked about it and intend to moving forward.
So all this 7.2 and 7.3 would be to authorize Gary to basically formally communicate with the city and ask them, do they have any suggestions, ideas? And if not, will they do or not bring it back here, then for whatever action we need to take. So if that's okay do we need a formal motion on that, Hans, or is, okay. Next one, I guess we kind of got an update. Sharmista? I know on 7.4 and 7.5, we sort of got an update on the Broadway Bridge earlier.
I went ahead. I know Bruce gave you the update on the water line portion of the project. I did reach out to the engineer to kind of get update on the actual bridge demolition itself. He said the contractor started saw cutting the deck on Monday, and they're currently mobilizing their heavy equipment to start picking off the girders after the deck's removed. And currently the girder demolition plan is under review.
So we've got a temporary line right now, correct? And then where's the plan at for the permanent? Is it still going to go attached to one of those bridges, or?
It may attach to one of the bridges, but I think I mentioned last time that they also want us to consider a river bore. So the sewer department is currently doing a river bore, so I was able to look at their bid tab for a similar pipe that we would install. So I have a price per foot based on a recent bid tab. However, I've been getting quotes from various contractors as well that are giving lower numbers. So I've reached out to Palmer Engineering, who's doing the engineering for Transportation Cabinet, and asked them, do they want me to go ahead and work on procuring engineering services to go ahead and design a river bore so we can get true costs, since the numbers I'm getting are they're not consistent. So, and then go ahead and get actual quotes or bids for the river bore versus attaching to the bridge, and then KYTC makes the final decision in which direction to go.
But for right now, service is secure, and then Midway, we took that off the agenda, correct? You're rebidding?
I am. So the estimate came in over 3 times the original estimate. So I think I spoke with Hans today, and he mentioned before we can start doing any kind of negotiations, we do have to bid it at least twice.
Okay.
So I've been on the phone with the station manufacturers most of the day today. I've revised it accordingly and plan to send it out first thing in the morning for a rebid.
Okay. And how long will that be on the street?
This one's going to be, a lot of the work's already been done and priced out. This pump station itself, so really the only work that needs to be priced out is the site work, like pouring the foundation, rerouting the fence around the pump station. So I'm planning on just doing like a 10-day turnaround. They seem to think that should be plenty of time, considering most of the work's already been done and priced out.
Any questions for Sharmista on? Okay. Next item is 7.6. This is breaking news. Steve and I and Gary met today with the county judge and the deputy county judge at, 2 o'clock. And the purpose of the meeting was, we met here, and they wanted to have a discussion regarding the 2 letters that we had sent. And basically what we reaffirmed, and they wanted to talk about the deadline, the November 1st. And basically what we said is we were looking for 2 things. One, did they want to pick us to partner with? And 2, if we went down that path, obviously there's going to need to be a match and their ability to participate in that match. They have a fiscal court meeting tomorrow that they want, so they're going to present it. And so we explained to them that the firm, and Adams here can add the details, but the firm, the actually phase of the project where we actually submit an application has not started yet. It could start any time between now and the end of the year. But obviously we've got Finley Engineering doing some work. We'll get some final figures from them. And we basically expressed to the judge, and it was a very good meeting, positive, was that we just need to know if they wanted to partner, then we need to continue to do engineering, need to keep going down this path. If they wanted to go a different route, or they didn't want to be able to participate in the match, that obviously create discussion this board need to have in terms of the cost, and that we really just need to know, did they want to partner with us? And I think they understood that. I think it was a positive meeting. They're going to talk to the fiscal court, and then hopefully between now and the next meeting, and hopefully between now and November 1st, we'll know if they want to work with us. If not, we told them we understood that was a business decision they need to make. They need to look at their financials, and that it was a decision we need to make, but that we had put $6.5 million in the current project, and we just need to know where they were. Steve or Gary, you want to add anything?
I think you summed it up a little.
Yeah, but I mean, it was positive. They're trying to get a handle on where they want to go. Obviously, we didn't have any discussion regarding if they've had any discussions with other vendors or where they might want to go. But we told them we knew they wanted to get the county covered. But it was, we'd made a big commitment, and the next commitment would require a significant amount of match, even though it's 75-25. And I think they're fully aware of that, and we'll just see what they discuss tomorrow night and where they want to go. So just wanted to update everybody, and like I said, that meeting happened this afternoon, and like I said, it was positive, but I think they've got to go back and talk and see what they want to do. And we told them we'd have to talk about this, and we've got no basis on this point to go into any kind of closed session. I mean, this is where we are. The letters are public, we've sent, and we just need to see how they want to proceed. So the last is maybe Catherine, you and Steve, or Leanne, where are we at on the clubhouse?
Well, while Leanne's coming up, I did run up there today and peek through the windows because it was closed. But as far as I could see, everything looked good. As was mentioned earlier, there's still the TV and the sound bar to be ordered and installed. And there's one part, there was a ramp built up as part of the parking lot to allow kind of almost a zero entry for ADA accessibility. And there's one part of that's, I could still see the rebar, and I don't know if they're gonna fill that with concrete.
Mr. Curry said they would be pouring concrete tomorrow.
Okay, so there's still one very small triangular portion of that large ramp to be poured. Nothing else really stood out.
When I talked to Mr. Curry, he mentioned the concrete, and also they will be sweeping the chimney this week. Media Services is going to help me, or actually install the TV and all of the media for the building. And then also the security department here at the plant board will be installing the cameras and the scans for the door entries. So I think probably end of month is realistic for it to be done.
Now, the chimney sweep, was that part of the original contract?
It was.
Now, is that recommended to be done regardless of whether we're going to be using the chimney? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think we had decided not to allow fires to be
Burned in there.
burned.
I think
Probably-
there's a
probably
lot
good
of
consumer
bird
tip.
nests. There's a lot of bird nests in there that need to be cleaned out.
Okay. And there's a little bit of minor tweaking that we need to do to the lease agreement now, just to change out from, it was gonna have other equipment, and so we're gonna switch that out, and maybe a few other provisions. So Obviously, if we get those proposed changes out before the 19th of November.
Okay.
Have we started taking any?
We have not, but we have gotten a few calls of people interested for December.
Okay. Is that our if it's finished at the end of October, I mean, we could always give ourselves a couple week leeway. Would we want to start running it mid-November?
Whatever you all, and we could have, if we do, we need to have like a special quick Zoom meeting to like approve the modified lease agreement, or whatever y'all think, whatever you're.
I don't know.
I mean, I think there's going, from everything I've heard, and I'm sure you all have, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've not been bold enough to peek in the windows, but I have driven up there. I mean, it's incredible. It really looks nice.
I'll send you my pictures.
Okay. But y'all have done a great job. I mean, Leanne, you and Steve and Catherine, I mean, it's really.
Outside of the physical things, though, it's just the tweaking of the lease agreement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which should be pretty minor. I don't know. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
So whenever you're ready, maybe Catherine, just, let Gary or Hans know, we could have a quick Zoom one day, at lunch or whatever. And if we need to adopt the modified lease, if we need to adopt that, or do we, Hans, since we acted on it, do we need to meet again to modify any small changes?
Depends on what the change is. They're not too major. I don't know if you're setting them up. But if it's just an hour or so, I mean, meeting, wouldn't it take 15 minutes?
No.
I mean, as I understand the changes, they're not things like cost prices. It's
No.
really sort of security and liability.
Yeah.
Could you, Leanne, could
changes.
you send out, because I think we've already internally with a couple of us agreed which ones to go on and to put in. If you could redline those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And send
Actually,
those-
Amy has already been working on it.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
And then Hans can look to see if they rise to the level.
okay.
But we would still circulate those
Sure,
changes.
yeah.
So could we go that route first? And then if you decide those warrant a meeting, then we could schedule a meeting.
Okay. So that's okay with y'all then? So.
Right.
But, I mean, this is, and I'll even say Warner Keynes called me and was thrilled with it.
Oh.
Said it was just fabulous. So
Well,
I think Warner may have been peeking in the windows. I'm not sure. But he said it was great, so.
Well, that's impressive.
But no, he called and he was really complimentary. I think, he was just glad we reopened it and said it really looked nice, so.
well, Leanne and the contractor have done a great job.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else have anything under old or new business?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, I had circulated a
Oh, that's right,
revised
the social media policy.
to kind of update it to get rid of some old references to older social sites like MySpace. It's been around a while, and then to update it for some recent case law changes. So I'd sent that around a time or two.
Yeah, and I think everybody's had that to look at,
Yes, sir.
so as everybody's looked at it, do we have any questions, changes, whatever?
And I'd incorporated your changes into it back, June, July, sometime around there, so.
Okay. If
Ask
not,
for
do
a
we have a
motion.
motion to adopt the revised policy?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Policy is adopted.
Thanks so much.
Last item is item 8, request permission to have chair call for a closed session. Mr. Mason, you wanna?
I'll make that motion. Request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 618101C to discuss proposed litigation regarding a contract matter, a product liability matter, and an administrative merger matter.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're in closed session. Mason?
Come out of closed session, no action was taken while in closed session.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're back in open session. All those in favor of adjournment, do I have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of here. Thank you all.